Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome in to the PWTorch Fireside Chat. It is June already. Holy crap. It's Friday, June 2nd. I'm PWTorch Assistant Editor Zack Heydorn. That's Tyler Sage. We're back. It's been a bit. Schedules in summer and craziness, real world stuff gets in the way of our amazing wrestling talk, and that sucks. But we're back, and it's great to be back. Tyler, what's up, man?
Hey, not much. I mean, maybe for you, but I'm on that Roman schedule now.
I see what it is. Yeah, see, I'm more of a Seth guy, a workhorse.
Yeah. I think, in the comments below, let us know if that tracks. Who's the Roman Reigns of the torch, and why is the title mark?
Yes.
But
right.
or whoever else. I wonder who we would all be if you did everything, and
that's a fun. I
don't think I'd be Roman or Seth, but if I can be Chad Gable, that's fine. Somewhere in that range of the pecking order.
Talented individual. You're not Chad Gable. Come
on.
I'm
Otis, maybe then. Who knows? But let's say we do the roster and go from there. But someone can do that. Maybe ask, do an email to Wade or to you, Zack, or to Todd, and that'd be a fun recourse there because I'd like to know everyone's individual picks. But yeah, I will stop filibustering.
I kind of think that would be a fun project for one of our listeners to do. It's not maybe you don't want to be calling yourself Roman Reigns. Well, Todd probably would, but but someone else says that about you, then you're probably in a different situation.
Mm-hmm.
So
someone's been listening for 20 years or something. The people that say they've been VIP for a long time, they get the credit to do that. So we'll
exactly.
Wait decide that one. So
exactly. But we're back, and man, it's coming off a heck of a weekend, a long weekend of wrestling. But I think pretty strong weekend, top to bottom, with some hiccups, along the way, to be sure, for both companies. I think not just one or the other. Hello to everybody who's joining us in the chat, Azan, and everybody else dropping in. We do appreciate it. We have some topics that we definitely want to hit today on the show, but as always, the chat is open. Put your thoughts, comments, ideas, Zack Heydorn bashing, Tyler Sage bashing, all there. You can do it. We'll make sure to get to it as much as we can. But let's start off with a topic that is going to be prevalent and timely tonight on SmackDown. Night of Champions happened, and it kind of seems like it's months ago at this point because so much wrestling has taken place since then. But there was a huge angle to close out Night of Champions. Jimmy Uso essentially turning on Roman Reigns and his the Bloodline breaking up. I mean, essentially is what that is at this point. Like, I don't know that you can have Jimmy kind of come back into the fold realistically at that point. Like, seems to me that they're on the road now to this thing wrapping up tonight on SmackDown. Obviously, we'll get the fallout from Jimmy's attack on Roman Reigns and what all that means for the Bloodline story. We also have a 1,000-day celebration for Roman's title reign that's going to be tonight. I'm sure that's just going to go so smooth. But I had reservations as far as like how much they can get out of the Bloodline coming out of WrestleMania if Roman is still the champion. And I mean, like they've done time and time again with this story, they really kind of proved me wrong. I think they've been able to get the drama back between the Usos and Roman. Solo is a nice touch there, and he's helped. And they've got this thing at a pretty good place. And it was a major thing that happened at Night of Champions. So Tyler, did you like the angle? And what are you thinking as far as fallout? What does the fallout need to be, and what do you think it will be?
Yeah, I like the angle. I do think that it to be like slightly pessimistic on it and then getting into kind of rave review territory, which I think we're both kind of on that page more so, it is like, you know, I was listening to The Fix with Todd and Wade from what, yesterday. My days are all messed up, but you know, he had a good point about how it hurts Sammy, and especially the way Sammy was talking on Monday, that, you know, he got that win on Roman, and it was like essentially like a heel getting a victory, because who knows if they would have won if, you know, Jimmy didn't do what he did, right? But, you know, straight up, the baby faces in WWE usually win when there's not interference. So there's kind of that counter argument to go as well. But kind of the continuation of the Sami Zayn being put on the back burner versus everyone else in the feud from like a long-term story perspective. But I think that can be mitigated with a clever video package that shows you him, you know, winning and not really recalling the unimportant details of how he did get that win. So I think that is not too bad. But yeah, I mean, I like the angle. I like Jimmy being the one, you know, who's doing it, and Jay being the indecisive one, as he's been a long time, as he was with Sammy. And as Zack said in the chat here, I do think we're on the road to, you know, Jay Slam, or whatever you want to call, you know, his Kofi Mania type moment, where you get the, you know, we didn't get it for Sammy, we didn't get it for Cody, but we might get it with Jay. And those have always been the three. And, you know, if you would have asked me January time, I thought it was slim to none that Jay would be the one to do this. And now he seems to be the betting favorite to do it. And I think that's an interesting story to tell. And so overall, I like that. I'm trying to think, like, when the post-WrestleMania press conference was it Roman that said they were like in the third inning on this Bloodline story? So, you know, if it ends for the most part at SummerSlam, we're probably more like at the seventh inning stretch than the third inning. But besides that, I mean, to get anything past this WrestleMania, I think is a big win, and to have a very compelling story from now until August, and then maybe beyond, right? Because then if Roman does lose it, let's say, and then leaves, comes back, and there's a built-in story there, you know, you've got basically a year of content built in beyond what most of us thought there was with this Bloodline storyline. So I think all that's a super positive, and you know, I'm curious to see where they go post that time, but I'm excited for the summer to see the story play out. Tonight, as you said before we started, is very pivotal on what they tell, and yeah, I'm excited to see it. And, you know, last week's SmackDown was a pre-taped, and there was a lot going on in pre-taped that you don't typically see in that. So a live crowd, I don't know where they are tonight off the top. Are they like in, you know, New Jersey or something? Usually they're pretty East Coasty when they get back from a long trip that. But, you know, it depends where it is. Hopefully it's in a moderate to a good town where they can, you know, get a big reaction out of that and whatnot. But
Wilkes-Barre.
Yeah, I think Wilkes-Barre, Connecticut,
Pennsylvania.
Oh, same. It's in that northeast.
Wilkes-Barre. I'm not sure.
Probably Barry, but, you know, depends if you got that Connecticut, northern Pennsylvania accents, Bury. But yeah, so I liked it in general there, and I like a lot of that WWE pay-per-view as well, from the angles there, the Cody Brock stuff. I liked, you know, obviously Seth, that was pretty telegraphed, but felt like a big moment in front of that crowd. So I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but yeah, I like it in general, and I'm pleasantly surprised that they've been able to squeeze this much juice out of that lemon, so to say.
Man, you know, I don't know that I can get behind. I mean, like Jey Uso being the guy that beats Roman Reigns. Like, I think from a story perspective, if like this was a movie, you know, that's what would happen, right? Like Jey Uso would, you know, overcome all the odds and get the big win. But it's not a movie, you know, and so you really need the guy that beats Roman Reigns, like, to be your next guy. Like, it just, there's so much built up there, and I mean, I just don't know that Jay is going to be that guy for WWE. And so it's like, it's going to be really interesting to see them kind of like navigate their way through this feud, because I think storyline wise, you know, it makes sense, but like the business of wrestling and using, you know, the equity that Roman has and being the first guy to beat him 1,000 days, that needs to make your next star in some capacity, heel, babyface, whatever. And I just not seeing that with Jay, you know, like it makes sense in a lot of ways. But like the elephant in the room is this going to be a guy who's going to main event WrestleMania 2-3 years in a row? No, I don't think so. And so I think that's kind of like, you really have to decide what's important here, like the story and making sure that ends correctly, or the kind of like using the Roman equity for something super significant that's just not Jay at this point. It's a tough one. Like, are you confident, like, hey, it has to be Jay? Or because I don't know, man. Like, you take Jay out of this Bloodline story, and it's not like he's been like a singles act that's like ready to pop off the screen. Like, this Bloodline thing has made him for the best. I mean, it's been wonderful and he's been great, but he's not always been this like next guy.
Yeah. Well, I think Azam makes a good point that sorry, wrong one. Roman, two more years of Roman on top, I think, is what we all need. That was a joke, obviously. So I think that's funny. But yeah, no, it's an interesting point because it's, I guess the three would be Sammy, Cody, Jay, right? Is there anyone else that you'd put in this equation to take it off of Roman at this point? And that's not to be
at this point. No.
If you do, please enter them into the discussion. But it's interesting because it's like, yes, Cody on paper seems to be the one to do it if you want to do that, what you're describing, and getting all the equity out of that, the Ultimate Warrior defeating Hogan sort of vibe. Or, let's say Rock beating Austin, and you think Rock's going to be that guy, because Austin's kind of hurt and whatever, right? That whole strategy of the biggest star losing. But, does Cody need that even at this point, right? I don't think so. I think Sammy, I would put more in that boat out of the three of them for that capacity of like a guy that can main event a WrestleMania. Because Jay, and I brought up the Kofi comparison for a reason, because I think it's kind of the fraught nature of wrestling in North America, right? Of non-white male performers are still have a ceiling creatively. I mean, obviously Roman is different than that, but it's just like, it feels like if he does win, he'd do that Kofi type run where he could have a 6-month run where he maybe loses it at WrestleMania, and then a year or 2 years from then, like, you might not see him but once or twice a month on TV like Kofi. Kofi's been hurt and whatever, but he's never stayed at that top guy after that run. Was unceremoniously defeated by Brock on that first SmackDown on Fox and all that stuff.
That was horrible. That was so horrible.
Yeah, but I think Jay would unfortunately have the same trajectory. And I do not think the rub, I would agree with you on that point, that the rub would not be there for him long term, because he just is like 90% there. And I think, if you even look, when were him and Jimmy complaining that they never even had a WrestleMania match after being with the company for 10 years? Is that like 2017, 2016, so, 2018, somewhere there? So, that's not that long ago that they're even complaining about never having a spot on a 8-hour WrestleMania show, right? So to get back to that point is easier than being a top guy in the company, when now that you have 2 belts, it's watered down. So those champions now, you can be this, if it's Jay and Seth that are champions, like, I think Seth is the top guy in the company at that point, is what you're saying, is what we would all think. So, yeah, I think it's a good point, but the story to me seems like they're going Jay to take it off of Roman. But then if not, I guess it's Cody or Sammy taking it off of Roman at the next WrestleMania or Rumble or something like that. But then, that's fraught as well, because then who's going to win the Rumble? I guess there's two champions at that point, so you could do that more for the same thing. So we're thinking out like 9 months here. But, yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a lot of good points. And, it seems like Jay taking it off him is where they're going. But I personally have always been a Sammy guy. And I think there's equity in that Cody doesn't need, per se. Because I think he's already a top guy with or without taking it off of Roman. But you solidify that for the Cody documentary that you're going to do one day, of his long career arc too, which is always important. So you make him a, top guy for 3 years, as opposed to Sammy, who would be a top Daniel Bryan type character, I think, at his peak, where he.
And I mean, like, they've got a lot of like matches they can do now. I mean, you can do Jimmy versus Roman. I think that's coming. You can do, a really dramatic Roman and Solo against the Usos. You can do that at some point. Obviously, Jay and Roman, and down the road, Solo versus Roman. Someone put that in the chat as well. So it's like, they have a lot of different angles that they can take on this. It's just, yeah, like what is gonna like make the story kind of end? Is it the Usos just leaving, Roman Reigns and that's it, or is it connected to that championship that he has? Because I suppose you could like just do both independent of each other too, But I know, I mean, I bring it up because it'll be interesting to see what they do, and there's just a lot of potential and a lot of opportunity. What are you expecting to see tonight, like on SmackDown? They're going to crown Roman Reigns, reportedly a new title belt, perhaps that is one title, instead of him carrying two around. I think that's probably a good idea, given that Seth has one also. But yeah, the elephant in the room is you have this big angle that you're going to work around too. So I don't know that I can see like Jimmy and Jay getting one up on Roman again tonight. So I don't know. I kind of think this is Roman's holding the belt high and Jimmy's decimated type thing. But I don't know. I mean, they can take it a lot of different directions. What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely think Roman's got to get the upper hand at this part of the story. You don't want him to get got twice in a 5-day period. But yeah, it's something I think Paul Heyman heavy tonight, with him advising the tribal chief in a good or bad way long term. That can because he's that's the one Solo. I guess if you do the pecking order, obviously Jimmy and Jay are eventually breaking away from Roman. When that happens, who's more likely to not be with Roman, 6 months from that point? Is it Solo or is it Paul Heyman? And that kind of question is to be crystallized, and who's showing signs of drifting away from him at this point. Who's going to be the last person standing holding the bag in the Roman category? I think it's an interesting thing to leave breadcrumbs for at this point. But yeah, I think him holding high, especially if they reveal a new belt, I'm curious what that would look like. Also, if we can get Asuka and Rhea, they can just trade belts tonight. That'd be great because they're both heels.
It makes no damn sense.
Or just have Rhea walk out with the belt and Asuka on Monday come out with the other belt and just don't talk about it. And I think that'd be totally fine. If you're embarrassed about having to explain that, just they're different colors now. It's all the same. So that's a tangent, but that's a deal there. But yeah, I think Jimmy being there at all tonight, I would not be shocked if we don't see him, and maybe Jay's got to make a decision to go out there or not go out there, and that's kind of the thing hanging from the first segment to the last segment. But it's always been hard to predict what they're doing per se, and I'm not caught up on Succession, so who's Kendall in this? I know he was a pivotal part of the last episode, so who's the Kendall in this situation I think is important, and all that sort of stuff. So they've taken those marks there, but I'm definitely very interested to see what happens. That's for sure. Especially
it's going to be a big Roman day. I think I think he gets some retribution in some way. I'm not sure how, but 1,000 days. I think they're going to make this look good.
Yeah, no cake, hopefully. No table.
No cake. Oh God. Or no big cake.
Yeah. Is there any leaks on the belt? I haven't seen that today.
I have not. No leaks. I've just seen that that's the plan, reportedly. So
yeah, I mean, you think it'd be the big W? If I had to guess, I love talking belts. It's probably the big W with the same style, but gold and black. If I had to guess,
that's what I'm thinking too.
Hopefully it's not half red, half blue. So god awful BS. Where it's diagonally down the middle, it's blue and then red, and it's the big W with the black background.
Like a 2010 Survivor Series T-shirt.
Yeah. Oh, yikes. Yeah, but a black and gold belt with the big W, like the one behind me, that W style.
Yes.
I think that'd be as good as a modern WWE belt could work, because it'd be readable. I think the AEW belts are pretty, but they're not very readable from a distance, so they all just kind of look like gold blobs. I think that's a problem. But anyway, not belt talk, but I love belts.
Hey, I like belt talk, but I think you're right. I think it's gold. It's a lot of gold, but it's very much in the vein of that belt that you have up there in terms of design. It goes along with Seth's little second place belt that he's that he's got carrying around. Man, like you really did the belt a disservice, the second belt, or Seth's belt, by putting it on not in the main event. It's like we're right back to where we were with 2012 World Heavyweight Championship title defenses,
opening WrestleManias.
Yeah, and when you know what they're like in hindsight, you realize, okay, they had a big angle planned for the tag match, so that's why that happened. But like, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, you have to decide, okay, we're gonna try our best to make this belt not the second place belt, even though it is, but we're gonna just try to make it not seem that way. And so far, they're batting like a big fat zero on that. Did you like? I thought Seth and AJ at the pay-per-view was like a good match, but not great. Like, it was solid. The two of them can't really have a non-solid match, but it was okay. And it just seems like exactly what everybody feared it would be, second place belt. And it has no context. Like, I think I would just prefer Seth being on Raw and just knowing he's a top guy than him carrying around this title that just really doesn't do anything. Like, I don't know. It had no momentum for me on Monday night or Saturday night during the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Well, on the match itself, I would agree. I think it was hurt by the fact that AJ and Seth, not so much Seth, but Seth is not, 27 anymore either, right? He can do a lot of the same stuff. But AJ certainly is he's like 44, 45?
Something like that, yeah.
Maybe even
44, 45.
coming off the injury. There's just, it's not the same match would have been 7 years ago, right? So that hurt. But also the main thing that hurt it, in my opinion, was the fact that it's both those guys, so they feel like they have to perform at a certain level and have a 20-plus minute match to, define this new belt. And I think it would have been better as like a 15-minute, tighten it up a bit, but you could still have a more impactful match than the length of it was. And the main thing that hurt it was me, you, and everyone's family members knew Seth was winning that belt from the start of that tournament. And so, that foregone conclusion nature of it is not too bad. So
yeah.
It's not. I'm sorry, read comments here. But that didn't help it whatsoever. But yeah, I mean, you putting it first on the show tells you where it is, and the Money in the Bank winner, the Royal Rumble winner. That's like, now you can do whatever you want and have those kind of take a chance people and have them win those, which is like, in theory, a good thing, but it shows your hand that this belt is for those built-in things that now you have on the schedule, and you want to make the Royal Rumble a little more unpredictable because, you've got to have the Codys win it when you only have one belt, but now you can have whatever. If you had, I don't know, but you can go kind of crazy and have them take on Seth in the opener of night one of WrestleMania. Yeah.
Right. Dude, you're right, man. Because I also think that the babyface thing didn't help here either. Like, I think that you can forget that hurts. That can hurt matches if it's not done the right way. And I think the crowd really didn't know just what the hell to do. Like, do we cheer for Seth? Do we cheer for AJ? We don't know. That didn't help things. Seth, so he needs challengers now. I mean, to me, it sounds like it looks like they're going to go down the road of, somebody within Judgment Day. I know, Zack, you're not going to want to hear this, but, Dominic, perhaps, Damian Priest. I think that, to me, is where I'd go for Seth at this point. I mean, Judgment Day continues to be like a prominent fixture on Raw. They're the heels that can get beat but still have heat behind them. We've seen Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins plenty of times. Dom, that would be a fun little kind of gimmicky match, but also very unserious. So to me, I think that can work. Like, that you can get something out of Damian Priest and Seth Rollins, and I kind of think that that's what they set up, over on Monday.
Yeah, and
or
do you think that's like as Zan is alluding to, a Dom Money in the Bank winner, or is that like maybe Priest gets that title shot and then Dom wins Money in the Bank, and then he can be the chicken shit heel that carries it for way too long and kind of does fake run-ins and then decides not to do it, etc. Is that kind of the way, if you were booking it, how you do it? Because I think Priest right now is where I would go, because post Bad Bunny, this is the most impactful he's probably going to be. You might as well capitalize on that and have him 2 high-profile matches at the same time, and then you can have Dom do that. That gimmick, I think, works and is big money. With Dom running around with that thing for a long time, gives him a new definition of that character and makes everyone hate him even more, which is kind of insane to think that they could do that, but I think that'd be a good vessel for him.
There's a lot of heat in Dominic getting that title, or that I don't know. I mean, yeah, you could definitely go that route. I think you could do, Damian Priest versus. I mean, they have to do a title match at the pay-per-view, right? So I mean, I think you could pull off. They might like hotshot Priest versus Seth into that, like do it at Money in the Bank, It's kind of rushed at that point, but not but I don't know where else they go. I guess that's my thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you had to have AJ come on Monday just to set up a tag.
Exactly. Yeah, right.
So which that doesn't. I mean, that's fine. They're both baby faces, so them coming together works fine enough to put on a TV show. But yeah, I don't know. There's not a ton of options at the moment on Raw, and that is, I guess the reason to have the Seth belt is maybe 6 months from now you have more people higher on the card in your mind because they're going for a world title, as opposed to, being under Austin Theory.
Right.
When we set up, if you're going to book it 6 months out, Seth's still the champion, him and Gunther makes a lot of sense. Azan here, Bronson Reed makes some sense on, a big main event of a Raw or a lesser show. I'm trying to think of the schedule off the top of my head. We got Money in the Bank, then SummerSlam, then obviously we got something in between before Survivor Series, right? So maybe that show that I cannot think of, TLC or Extreme Rules or Hell in the Cell, whatever they're going to call it. So, that someone like that would be fine, or if you bring up someone from NXT, whatever. But yeah, there's not a ton of people that feel secondary world title on Raw right now, unless you have if Randy Orton can come back, that'd be quite the match. Seth's always had an issue with Randy Orton, but I don't know if it's health wise if we're ever going to see that. So yeah,
but I also think it kind of highlights the unfortunate nature of the second world title altogether. Because look, if you didn't have that second world title, you could do Gunther, Seth Rollins for the IC title. That's a big match. You can build. I think you could. It's not a world title per se, but that feud could lead Monday Night Raw for a month or so. I mean, so it's just but now you can't put Gunther in the world title picture because he's the IC champion. You don't want to just dust him like that. So it's you just kind of complicated everything with this, and I haven't seen a positive yet either. So we'll see. All right, so Cody loses to Brock Lesnar, a Night of Champions, and I thought cut a hell of a promo on Raw this week. It was classic Cody in a lot of ways. I mean, we know Cody's got his thing. He's got it, Cody's. But this was the best of that, in my opinion. He laid it all out. He looked like a badass. He just was. He looked like a star, and called out Brock Lesnar again. I thought it was a really well thought out and well delivered promo that sets up, a future match, whether that's at Money in the Bank or at SummerSlam or whatever. There's heat there, and I think there would have been anyway, but this promo really helped push that along. He looked really good out there cutting that this week. Did you like the match at Night of Champions? And what do you think of the promo?
Yeah, and I like the strategy too of extending the story. I think Brock is really good for Cody and gives Brock something to do that. He's not the Big Show, but you can flex him any way you need to at this point in his career, which I think is a positive. Yeah. Where if you need him to be the cowboy, come out and laugh, everyone's going to get behind it. If you need him to be the badass MMA fighter guy that's, taking on your top babyface and destroying him, in front of people, he can do that also. And
right,
if you compare, Cody's 2 losses or this, and against Roman at WrestleMania, right? That's the only even like a tag match as he lost in WWE since he came back. So
I think that's it.
Yeah. If you compare those, the Monday after both his losses, this promo is way more what I would want to see than him not even kind of lightly bring it up against Roman. So I think lessons were learned there from whoever is writing for him and his input, etc., of helping his character way more with this loss and this promo afterwards of making, you never want to book a character to like gain by losing, but some babyface characters certainly gain by losing and get that chase and, put you farther down that mountain to climb up and be a higher point in that mountain when you do defeat the beast, no pun intended. And I think we're right there for that story. And does it happen at Money in the Bank? Probably at this point, right? So then you keep both of them out of the Money in the Bank because if Cody's in that, then he's got to win it. So from a technical standpoint and from a storyline point, I like all of it. And, Cody winning the rubber match, if it's even with, no DQ or whatever it needs to be to give him some advantage as a face. I think it's good. And I like Cody's promo. Like you said, Cody was peak good Cody in this instance, right. And that's why he works so much better with his delivery in general, just in WWE. It just for some reason feels different through that filter than it did through at AEW. And I think that's just kind of the type of fan base that's there live, the type of overall fan watching all 3 hours of Raw and commenting on it, etc. It just fits the vibe better for what he's doing with WWE right now.
You bring up a good point about Cody and Money in the Bank. It's like you almost have it's a really good point. You have to think about that. Like you don't want him in Money in the Bank losing, and if he's not in Money in the Bank, then what's he doing? Because he really should be in that mix. So you bringing that up, man? I think you're onto something in terms of they may be going to that match quicker. Like you think SummerSlam could make sense, but what do you do with Cody and Money in the Bank at that point? So it may be better for him to just finish this Brock thing and then just move on to something else. I mean, maybe you do run back Roman and Cody and somehow that ties into the Jey Uso storyline. I don't know. And you wrap it at SummerSlam, but you're right that he can't be in that match and not win. So, which I guess he could be. I mean, I guess he could be in the match and he could win. But I don't know. For some reason, it doesn't feel right at this point either.
Yeah, or you could have if he's in it, if maybe Solo's in it and Solo screws him, and then you have a stepping stone thing with Solo.
Right.
Even though we saw that 2 weeks before WrestleMania, didn't he beat him in the main event of Raw?
Yes.
In a singles match, and that was Solo's first loss. So. That is not super ideal. So, trying to book out Cody, this is why I'm happy I'm not a booker, because you have to think of all the things when you're post Brock, there's not much higher a level within WWE right now besides going for titles. So is it taking the thing off of Theory and kind of doing a TNT run within WWE? Maybe. Or is it, Lashley and you kind of do the same sort of feud where Cody's just taking on these beasts? And, I think that would not be ideal either because you're telling the same sort of story. So, I'm probably missing someone pretty blatant on SmackDown for him to go up against after this. But, that's more of an issue to go. But I think it's him and Brock at Money in the Bank is better. And, that's at what is that, an outdoor show in London?
That's the O2, in the UK.
Okay. Yeah. So, if you have Cody Brock, Money in the Bank match, you have obviously some Gunther match, you have Roman and Jimmy potentially, or a tag match. You need some bigger matches to make sure you sell that place well. I'm sure they are, but it's been a long time since they've been, in England. They were in Wales this time last year, so I think they'll do well. But so I think having big matches on that, and should be good. So.
Yeah. I think Cody's doing well. It's still, to me, it's interesting to watch him because you just wonder, I don't know what it is about Cody. I watch him and like his work, but there's a part of watching him to see, all right, can he navigate? Like, can he continue to navigate this and stay on this streak that he's been on without kind of shooting himself in the foot? And maybe we're just past that. Maybe we're just past that at this point in the WWE, the kind of the safety net of writers and Triple H and Vince McMahon, and all these things are keeping him in check, and he's not going to have one of those moments. But I do continue watching, going, all right, is it going to turn? But it doesn't seem like there's any momentum for that at this point. He seems to be on strong footing here, year 2 of his kind of WWE run. With I mean, look, he's worked Seth Rollins, he's won the Royal Rumble, he's been in the main event of WrestleMania, and now he's wrestling Brock Lesnar in a match trilogy. Like, I don't know that you could draw up a return to WWE that's better than that outside of winning the world title at WrestleMania. Like, that's pretty darn good. Not to mention, he's main eventing house shows. He's the leading merch seller in most towns. Like, this is like best case scenario for him as far as making that move and that jump back to WWE. It's amazing when you think about it from that perspective and what he's done in the last year. And yeah, he's been out with injury. I get it, but it's it's working for him right now in this company.
Yeah, for sure. And I think if you put him, Cody, the human, not the character, under Truth Serum, I think obviously the way he booked himself in AEW and not going for titles, I think he thinks this character works a lot better just constantly chasing and never having that belt. I think he is like mortified if he wins that world title, how it's going to go. Because I mean, if you look at him, like, he had the world title in Ring of Honor, and that was, I mean, we're talking like 2017, 2018 range. Yeah. And that's the last time he's, besides the NWA title, which, that was kind of a cup of coffee to get that for, the Rhodes legacy, et cetera. But it's interesting. I just like, I don't know, and I could be dead wrong about this, but I don't know if he's like clamoring backstage. He wants to be main eventing. He wants to be the biggest star possible. But I think if he was like asked, like, hey, do you want to beat Roman? Oh, he wants to beat Roman. But, do you want to beat Seth for the secondary title? I think he's like, is there something else we can do? Like, I think that would be his honest opinion. And the character, I think what you're worried about, the missteps, that character could get grating for a live audience, 6 months of him being the world champion, because it doesn't really work in its current state. And he's been able to pivot in the past, but I think he's totally happy doing this sort of character through several feuds before he has to pivot and kind of alter his character a bit, because this is what I think he prefers and what his vision of pro wrestling is as a babyface. And that's what he likes to do. So I think he's loving it, and it's working for him. And I think that's all a positive for him and for WWE.
I can't imagine what his merch checks are. A lot of zeros on those babies. Lots. Yep. No, but you're right. I mean, he's a babyface that I think does work chasing. I mean, it'll be interesting to see him defend a title if that happens. But they're milking this like finish the story thing, and that decision, I think, to do that and not go with him at WrestleMania wasn't even solely based on Cody. I mean, it may have been a little bit, but it was also on Roman too. Like, is now the time to take the belt off Roman? And I maintain that I thought it was, but they had something ready to go for Roman, and it's been very compelling, since WrestleMania, and same thing with Cody too. So, maybe Paul Levesque got it right. All right, tonight's a big night. We'll talk about all the fallout of SmackDown and Roman Reigns and his 1,000-day championship reign celebration, all across the Torch channels over the weekend and into next week. Wade, of course, has the post show tonight that you can check out. We'll be talking about it all and covering it all, PWTorch.com and elsewhere. As I said, across all the Torch stuff, so you can check it out there. Let's pivot to AEW, because they also had a pay-per-view over the weekend. The pay-per-view itself, I thought, really it fell right in line with like the build for it. I thought that there was a lot of kind of like, half done, half finished build to these matches. You didn't have like kind of like the marquee like blood feud or anything. I mean, I think they thought they did with Chris Jericho and Adam Cole, but they didn't.
Sure did not.
They did not have that, and so then when it came time to like get these matches in the ring, like everything was kind of okay, but you had an audience that wasn't very invested. You had outcomes that I don't think people really cared about one way or the other. And then you got to the last two matches, which had the most time put into them, and those worked out the best. And I think those were really solid. I mean, the four-way Pillars match itself was an excellent match, and Anarchy in the Arena was exactly what you'd expect it to be in terms of just pure chaos, and that was what it was, with some storytelling in there too. So I mean, I give it, like, as a collective show, like a thumbs down, just because there was a lot on there that just felt inconsequential. But the last two matches saved it from being like a really thumbs down show in my opinion. And there's so I look, AEW is not going to hit home runs on every single show for their entire existence, so it's not so much a knock on them, but I think it is telling that the two matches that were given the most time, that had the most investment from the audience, paid off the most, in terms of execution. I think that's something you should remember if you're Tony Khan. You have to have stories that make sense for the big matches to work on pay-per-view and to get people to want to see them and want to buy them. Some of this card had that, a lot of it didn't. And I think you saw that play out live as the show was on the air. So yeah, I kind of thought it was a thumbs down thing, but where were you at? We haven't been able to talk about it yet.
Yeah, I'd probably be more thumbs in the middle to a slight thumbs up if I had to choose thumbs up or thumbs down. I thought it was a good show, which in the grand scheme of AEW is bottom tier, just from the quality shows they put on.
Right.
I'd probably just off the top of my head put it up with like Forbidden Door last year, which was like a good show with no stories, and Adam Cole got taken out for 6 months, 9 months, whatever it was. So that's a thing there. But I thought it was good. From a work rate standpoint, I liked the battle royal, which was like very dumb, but Orange Cassidy's the only babyface that can pull off presenting that match.
Yes.
From his perspective. But I thought there were some things in there that were good. Obviously led to the way a battle royal should be used, where your Jay White, your Ricky Starks, like that story continued through that. There's a couple good things in there. I like the back and forth at the end. I like near the end, I was like, because I was like totally against that match happening. I thought it was stupid. And then near the end, I was like, oh, it's actually pretty well worked. I thought I like this, which is like a positive for what I thought it was going to be. The middle, pretty soft. I don't know if, I assume Jamie Hayter is like legit pretty injured, because that match was a dud and the Tony Storm thing felt very abrupt. And
yeah, she's hurt.
Yeah. So, and then, the crowd was not an AEW pay-per-view crowd either, which is very strange because that's mostly a travel to show. So that's just maybe more 5 years of AEW, and the crowd has kind of smoothed out from the absolute everything working out tremendously sort of thing. So like the Chris Statlander reveal, that was like, that kind of happened, and it was a big moment, but didn't feel there. And obviously the one crowd shot where half the arena is totally empty didn't help anything, and I'm sure that's
not great.
For all the WWE fanboys out there for life, so that's good. The last two matches I thought were good, especially the Pillars match. I was pleasantly surprised by how well worked I thought that was. I mean, there's like the MJF moment where, legit, I thought he was injured when he did the move off the top rope and was selling that elbow like no other. And he's just a pro at that sort of stuff, so I always appreciate that. And the headlock takeover to pin Darby, love that, because Darby's going to do that one day.
So great.
It's going to be the greatest long-term story AEW's ever told. Not like hyperbole, like to tell a story with a move through series of matches. I think is a great old school way to tell this story, and I like what they're doing there.
Let me just jump in there real quick. Yeah. I love that. I think that's such that's the type of thing that AEW does really well. There's that little storyline that's going on, and it plays itself out in a wrestling match between two stars or wrestling each other, like not in some meta way, but like a real way, like and will it matter if you don't know the history of that? Won't matter when they pay it off. If you do, it's going to matter that much more, and they really do that well, and so it just shows you they don't need to go to all these different meta directions. Like, that's a cool pro wrestling story that they do. And you're right. At some point Darby's going to pin MJF with that, and it's going to be chef's kiss.
Yeah, especially if somehow Tony Khan did resign MJF, that's the way MJF's going to leave the company, and Darby gets all that heat. I think that would be an incredible way to exit MJF out of the company. So we'll see. But beyond that, I think the only negatives were the Cole Jericho match. I thought was like one of the worst singles feud matches I've ever seen on an AEW pay-per-view. My dogs agree. But and then also the band playing during the main event for until they went up there. I was like, I know they're a heel group, but I thought that was super grating. And
did they play? I think they played music during the last Anarchy in the Arena. Somebody check me on that, but I think they did last time too.
But I would avoid that in future Anarchies in the Arena, because I thought that was that took me out of the first 8 minutes of the match, because they just kept recycling that song. So those are the only points I thought were pretty bad. But I thought it was fine beyond that. And I like the Takeshita reveal. I thought that was fun. Obviously played out a lot on Dynamite. So I think overall it was you said it the best at the top. It was a show that the build, it was a show earned by the build for the show. And I'm worried about Forbidden Door. I feel like there's even less heat this year for a good show. We'll see Rampage tonight. Looks like, Forbidden Door 2.0 in itself. So hopefully that's good. But I don't know. This is kind of the worst time of year for AEW in their schedule, with having a bunch of stuff that doesn't really matter going on. So I'm a bit worried about that. And obviously we'll talk about the announcement and a second show and all that stuff. I think I haven't changed my opinion there, but I'm happy to talk about it, obviously.
Well, let's go there. So we know the second show is happening, Collision on the 17th. We didn't know. We surmised that CM Punk's going to be involved in this. Tony Khan, another announcement. This time it was promoted as an announcement about AEW Collision, and it certainly was. CM Punk revealed he's going to be on the premiere episode that's going to take place June 17th at the United Center. I don't think we need to rehash what we've talked about already, but I think there's a new kind of piece to the CM Punk analysis here. And Azan, we do. When that's the news, man, you come to the right place, right here, Fireside Chat. Reactions. We got to hear kind of a live crowd reaction to CM Punk, and I thought it was poetic. It was like a poetic reaction given all that's happened concerning CM Punk. It was loud. It was a loud reaction. There were some cheers. There were some boos, and it just leads me to think that it'll be a little bit. Obviously, it'll be pro Punk in Chicago, but I think it's indicative of what it will be like market to market, loud and chaotic. And if I'm Tony Khan and I hear that reaction, I'm trying to find, and if I'm CM Punk too, how do you take advantage of that? How do you take advantage of the reaction you're going to get? You can't be out there playing white meat babyface. Do you want to be out there just being this this cold heel? I think it's time to really think up something cool here and try to take advantage of the chaos that comes along with CM Punk at this point. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's the reaction they got, I thought, was perfectly in line with everything that's happened since September. Yep. A lot like the pay-per-view. They got the reaction that this star deserves.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think there's a lot of cool ways to go about this. I'm not pro Punk coming back. We've talked about that a lot. I still am in that camp. I don't think he means as much for business as Tony Khan thinks there is. You already got the deal. I think you'd run without him. But we're here, so now let's talk about it because he's going to be there. And I think what I would pitch if I was CM Punk is, he's obviously tuned in to what everybody's talking about AEW, the pros, the cons, and all that stuff. He's on the message boards of Wrestling Observer.
Yes.
And so,
although he probably would never admit it, but yes, he is.
No, but I mean, that's what Alvarez is posting, and very soon after,
yes, I know.
Commenting on Instagram. So I would say he knows every sort of negative claim that you and I could bring up about AEW, why it's not working as well as it did 2 years ago, etc., and come out and be that anti-hero character, that what he did to Vince McMahon and saying, yeah, he's a millionaire who could be a billionaire, and be the not, you don't have to be anti-Tony Khan, but be the to be the anti-establishment guy has always been his character, but be out and say to get the when him and MJF were doing their feud and people were crazy, doing that, you say what you and I say weekly about the critiques of the show, and be yeah, I mean, we got 2 out, another show now, and whatever. There's ways to spin this, but be the voice of the internet community in your own spin way, right? You don't want to be just holding the bag for people like you and me, right? That's not Phil. That's never going to be him. But
no.
Have some things, if you don't want to be booed or cheered, one way or the other, if you would be kind of in the middle, be an anti-hero, that's what Punk likes to be. It's to come out and be anti the company in ways that you and I would critique it for. And I don't know, that's just a germ of an idea. There's ways to build from there, but him teaming weekly with FTR and defeating the Acclaim for the Trios title is not the way to go about this. And that's the way I think it might go for a certain way. But him coming out there, having that first episode of Collision, having a crazy drop the mic moment where he comes out, doesn't wrestle at all. He even can sit on the stage if he wants to and let it all out. He can talk crap about the Elite. He can talk crap about whatever. Hopefully you get it approved so no one's feelings are hurt. But go in and go hard. That's why people like AEW, because they feel it's a little bit more a peek behind the curtain. So don't filter that out and just do what you want to say within reason. That's the way to go. But I think they're going to play it safe, and it's going to be kind of that, hey, I'm back. Oh, I'm going to wrestle Powerhouse Hobbs. Cool, let's do it. So
yeah, that'd be a mistake. I think that'd be a mistake. I mean, I'm with you. I think that'd be a mistake. I think you have to play in. Look, if you got a reaction that was all positive, okay, you could kind of treat him as all right, well, he's gonna come back and be a babyface, and we'll eventually get to Punk versus MJF 2 or whatever 3. Okay, I think that's reasonable. If it was all negative, I think you could lean into that and go, all right, well, we're gonna bring him back as a heel, and he's gonna, I don't know, whatever. He's going to beat up, just dismantle Jungle Boy or something like that, or Darby Allin or whatever. You can pick your baby face, and we're going to tell that story like traditional pro wrestling. But it wasn't that. It was it felt to me like it was pretty passionate, loud, but all over the place. And I think that's what you want to tap into. And so I think if you trot out a CM Punk that you're describing and you just let him go, crowd reacts I'm not. You guys know I am not in the camp of the crowd just reacts how they react. Just let them. And I'm not advocating for that here. I just want to be clear about that. I think you let that happen for a while, and then let that audience reaction dictate where you go. If he goes out there and he says that stuff and he gets cheered, all right, now you paint him in that way. If he goes out there and he gets that message is not getting over his babyface, all right, cool. You're not shoehorning him into any specific role, because the goal is chaos. And I think, yeah, if you play that, you have something fresh. You have an interesting reason to watch a brand new show on Saturday night of all times. But because that is CM Punk. That's where the interest in him comes from. It's that edge that he has. It's that part of his personality. It's the element of, hey, he might be reading a script, but you just never know with this guy. That's what's appealing about him. And so, man, if you just paint him into this thing of all right, I'm going to just yuck it up with FTR every week, there's no way that that's going to have the staying power that Tony Khan needs. Like, you need, like, and honestly, I think we saw that CM Punk a little bit when he first came back. Like, when he was working Darby Allin, it was like, well, I'm here to see if I still got it, and I think I'm the best of the world, but I'm not sure, really. I'm kind of doubting. I'm not so sure. Like, that was fine at that time because nobody had seen CM Punk in 7 years. But now, though, like, you need, like, edgy CM Punk to come back. And I think you need Punk with a chip on his shoulder to come back. If you don't have that, you're not getting anywhere near the amount of business out of him that you need, given what you're paying the guy, and also what you've sacrificed from a credibility standpoint in the locker room to get him back on TV. Like, this needs to be a home run, and we'll see. But man, yeah, it'd be disappointing to see him come back and just, do tag team matches with Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah, and I think another way you could spin it on, like, kind of the way to do this is kind of like when Raw and when SmackDown premiered, and it was like the idea was like competition within the two brands to like be which one's better. And
yes,
kind of like when SmackDown went live again, 2016-ish, like when it was Friday taped forever and then it was Tuesday live, and there was always that kind of debate when WWE was the only thing in town, where it's like, oh, well, SmackDown's better than Raw, Raw's better than SmackDown. Like, I think to have that sort of competition, and you can use that as like, Punk can come out and he doesn't have to say like, hey, F the Elite, but you can say like, hey,
right,
Bozo's on Wednesday, and you have like a real heat between the two locker rooms, at least on TV. Then like, if people like you and I are like, I'm a Dynamite guy and you're a Collision guy, I think that short term, even intermediately, can be healthy to make sure people watch both shows, because they're both trying to like outdo the other ones before. Inevitably, it's like Raw and SmackDown are now for WWE, where they're basically the same. If you watch one, you probably watch both of them. You're not really choosing one or the other. And if you're Tony Khan, you kind of want that competition. You want people to pick sides because, just like politics or anything, right? Like, people sitting in the middle are not your most loyal audience. So people picking them against like, I'm a Wednesday guy, you're a Saturday guy, and the debate that comes with that, I think, is important, and that's a good like proxy for CM Punk saying, F you to the Elite guys forever in that way. And then you can have like this cross. You don't need a Survivor Series, for the love of God, please. We're good on that.
Oh God, don't even put it out there. Don't put it out there.
You can do like a Punk versus a MJF, like you said, or a Punk versus a Adam Cole, right? Like Dynamite, Wednesday versus Saturday as like a pay-per-view thing, I think can work in the meta context, which AEW loves to give you the meta context and not really spell it out for you. So take advantage of that, because you can do that more than WWE can. And I think AEW, in where it's been lacking, is they're not super taking advantage of the built-in advantage they have over WWE in this sort of aspect, where you can have Roman say something about Seth, but it's scripted, it's not really real. But Punk saying something about Kenny Omega, they're not really going to interact, so you might as well take advantage of that and like be like, oh man, they still hate each other. This is kind of crazy. It makes both of them look bad. But Punk, I think at this point, has made his bed, and if he's the instigator on stuff like that, I think that fits his character for where we define him currently as a fan base.
Yeah, well, and I also think too, like, if you do that and then you do have a match with them down the road, like if you get to a point where you can mend the relationship and you can get them in the ring to work, you have a whole simmering build that has happened kind of in the background to lean on. Tracy, good question. And thanks for being here as always, Tracy. What percentage of the TV audience do we think is even aware of the issues with CM Punk and the Elite? I don't think it's like all that many, to be honest. Like, I think, Zach, you're overstating it with 50%. From a TV audience perspective, like, I think for the people that are in the building, you're probably like, it's probably over 50, 60. Like, it's a lot. But the TV audience, is big. I mean, there's only like, what's the best pay-per-view that AEW has ever done? 220,000, the All-In show in 2021.
Yeah, the post Forbidden Door All-In, I think. Yeah, that's 2021.
Yeah, so like that's 20%, of their overall 20% of their overall audience are the diehards that buy the pay-per-view, or the people that buy the pay-per-view on their best day. I mean, that's not like a huge sample size of people that. I mean, if you're not buying the pay-per-view, are you reading, the Torch and Meltzer about the inner workings of AEW if you're not buying the pay-per-view? Like, I don't know. I'd argue probably not, but maybe I'm wrong. But I don't think I think it's small. I think it's a small piece. What do you think?
See, I'm probably more than that 50%, just because the audience is smaller than WWE, right? Like if it's WWE, I would say that's like 10% of people watching SmackDown kind of know anything going on. Like would even know that, if they didn't do the thing with Vince and Stephanie talking about Vince, like they don't know Vince is back, probably. They're not following all that stuff. So I would say that's just from a number standpoint, but I'd say a little less than the average viewership of Rampage knows about this pretty well. So 290, 310.
Okay, that's fair.
But like my own bias on this is like I don't know anyone that watches AEW at all that didn't ask me a question about Brawl Out at some point. Now that means does that mean they know every single detail of Sanjay Dutt is a booker or why is QT Marshall on TV so much? They don't really understand that reason. But I think that was pretty well out there at this point that there's something going on. Tony Khan taking the belts off of the Elite, not even saying Punk was injured. They've never said Punk was injured ever on television.
Yeah,
as
true.
far as I can tell. So I think there's things like that where you say less and people ask more questions or search hey, what's up with CM Punk? I haven't seen him since All Out. That's a quick Google that you could do as a viewer. So I think it's more because it's easy to ascertain that, and he's such a big star that you're being if it's like January and I'm like, where the hell is CM Punk? I'm going to Google it, and that's going to be the first thing that pops up, and then I'm going to know about it. So you don't have to know it within detail. You don't have to watch a show that is talking about it 12 hours afterwards. You don't have to be on Squared Circle, but I think they know about something that happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point about the Rampage day. It's a good benchmark because it's Rampage. But you know what? I may put Rampage on tonight. That's a good card tonight.
I know. I probably will too. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the number is, because what was the number? We're not on Thursdays anymore. I think it was up, right? The Dynamite number. I didn't look at it.
Dynamite was up. It was in the 900s. Yeah. So it was up. Post pay-per-view bump, and no NBA, I don't believe. So that helps. That certainly helps. Okay, last topic here that I have is AEW related. Is how about that Don Callis promo, man? Geez, that. I thought that was it's recent. There's some recency bias here for sure. I can admit that, but I think that was one of the most efficient star framing promos that AEW has done in the history of the company. Takeshita is a brand new guy, a new star. He's been around, but he's a new guy. He's not somebody that had a ton of notoriety on the indies that's coming in. He's not a former WWE guy. But dude, when he was in that ring and Callis was talking about him, that audience was booing, and he was standing there giving those looks. That guy came across as a big time star. I thought Don Callis flexed the muscles that need to be flexed to get that reaction, but he didn't do too much either. He didn't overplay it. This wasn't gimmick Don Callis, getting Elias type heat out there. It seemed to me that he really pivoted on the promo to do less because that reaction was already there. And there's a confidence in that. And as An just said it, Takeshita really showed he always had an it factor, but I questioned it as whether or not he would have it as a heel, because he was such a genuinely likable guy as babyface. But he showed me something there. I thought the presentation, top to bottom, the look, the tone, Callis, the reaction they were going for, clicked, and the result is you have a new star that's risen to another level in Takeshita, and you've got a big time main event match when you want it with Kenny Omega, on the horizon. Not to mention, the Forbidden Door stuff with whatever Kenny Omega has going on, and he's pulling from Japan. So, we'll wrap up on this topic, but I thought it was just a really great piece of business for the company and for Takeshita and Callis in particular.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I also think I'd have Takeshita go over in that first feud between the
Hell
two.
yeah, definitely.
If you had to take if I had to give you stock options on Takeshita or Jay White, I'm certainly buying the Takeshita stock right now.
Oh yeah,
than the Jay White, which is kind of crazy. But it's so un AEW from the course of that company's history to what we saw on Wednesday, because they had a big angle where somebody betrayed the other person, which has happened, but from the lifelong friendship, his uncle nephew relationship, he's always been by his side essentially for the last 3 years, ever since he's been away from the Hangman tag team essentially, and he turns on him. And then to immediately take advantage of that, get the proper heat, and you get the right heel manager that's not a oh my god, what's his name, the MMA guy, not that guy.
What the hell's his name?
Don something, or I blocked him out of my memory. But not a QT Marshall, not a Stokely, whatever. He's the first. He's not Bobby Heenan, but that sort of level of manager, right, where you take him seriously and he's not a joke out there. And to do it, the follow-up episode of Dynamite, this would take Dan Lambert. Thank you,
Dan Lambert. There it is.
But this would have been 3 weeks from that pay-per-view a year ago. It would have lost its heat because people had kind of forgotten about it. Just all of it was perfect. And Takeshita is, unmolded clay. It makes sense for his character because he appeared, had good matches, but lost all the time. So doing that change in character allows him now to start fresh. He can get wins. He built up as a big star. All of it works really good. I don't know whose idea it was, and this is not a negative on Tony Khan. I do think he's a pretty good booker from week to week in telling stories, but this long view booking of this character, I think, was somebody else or someone else's major input, whether that be Don Callis, whoever. But I thought it's just such a pivot for what they've done with characters. And besides a Darby or an MJF, it feels like the first real major star built within the sole framework of AEW, which is, it's not done yet. The mission's not accomplished with Takeshita, but it's all there in front of them. And it's kind of the promise of what an AEW can be. So I thought all that was super positive. So.
Great call. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Yeah. Well, and I mean, Steven, I think you're right. He only has that right now with Don Callis there, but Don, he's there, and that's good work on the part of AEW to recognize that. Okay, what does this guy need to be a fuller, complete package, his character? Okay, well, let's put Don Callis with him. Boom, thumbs up. I think that's a positive and not a negative. But guys, we will wrap it up right there. Oh, go ahead.
One thing on that, just to compare it, how much did Brock Lesnar talk before? Not this past year or two when it was him and Paul Heyman, right? So it can work. It's not an ideal thing, but I think it can work tremendously if you do it. One person in the company can get away with it. So anyway.
You can't have everybody out there with mouthpieces like that. But I mean, you got to pick and choose, and I think so far they made the right call here. We'll see. Is Kenny Omega going to grab Okada and Ibushi? Is that what you thinking is happening here?
I would say one of them. Ibushi makes the most sense just for his relationship with him. And that would be good for AEW to keep Kenny if Ibushi can get locked in. I think they're together. If Ibushi went to WWE and was more of a trainer performer, I think Kenny going to WWE would be more likely. So I think that's the most likely outcome. But Okada also worked last year, so that would make sense too. And doing a multi-man match makes sense for him as well, where he is right now. So yeah,
true.
I think is a huge get. But I think Ibushi, for using him more regularly than Okada, would be more impactful for me personally.
I agree. And I think I just see Ibushi playing in the AEW sandbox more potentially too than Okada will, which is certainly going to be a one and done for him until next Forbidden Door. So yeah. All right. everybody, we will wrap it up right there. Thanks to all who joined, Tracy, Hazan, Steven, and Zach, and everybody else who popped in. Thank you. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. As I said at the top of the show, because of just life and schedules, we haven't been as active in the last 10 days as we'd like to on the channel, but that should pick up again. Next week should be back on a similar schedule. So thanks for your patience, but also thanks for your support. And subscribe, hit that notification button, and we'll be back. We got you covered on SmackDown tonight at PWTorch.com. You can read Wade's report as well as Alex's. And Tyler, thanks, appreciate it, man. And we'll catch everybody next time. See ya.